Welcome to Chandwell. My name's Michael and I'm building the back of a commercial street for behind my oh, did I make this one too big? Welcome to Chandwell. The postman brought me this parcel recently, and inside was the next building for the back of the commercial street I'm making for behind my station. My name's Michael, and in this video I'm going to show how I did not make this building on Market Street.
Hi everyone, and I'm Liam. I made that building, but Michael's now going to show you how he made this building on Market Hill in Deansbury Town.
I've always admired the superb buildings that Liam makes over on his Deansbury Town YouTube channel. We got to talking recently and thought it would be fun to make the same building but in the opposite scale. This video is the sorry and tragic tale of our experiment. Obviously I work in N gauge and Liam is making a 00 gauge 4mm scale layout. He's currently working on the back of a commercial street to go behind his station, just like I am, but he's making it in 3mm scale as a kind of forced perspective. So the building I'm making here is 3mm scale, which is 50% bigger than N gauge that I'm used to. I use my usual technique of sticking the parts to 1mm card and using printed sticky labels. This is going to be a low relief building based on one on North Parade in Bradford. Liam and I designed the building together in Inkscape. We dove straight into secret construction, sharing no photos along the way and skipping the all-important card mock-up stage. This was a mistake that has bitten us both, Liam especially, but more on that later. I used Scale Scene's 00 scale texture scaled down to 3mm scale. I was amazed at how much more defined the bricks are. Every brick course is clearly visible. I used my usual sticky label method for the window frames, but the extra 50% in 3mm scale allowed me to go a little bit wider on these ones. I stuck these to another sheet to produce a frame 2 sheets thick. This is stuck to a bit of old packaging acetate, criss-crossed with the scalpel, and then the holes peeled out. They look good. The windows in the modern extension were an interesting evolution of the method. I made each one as one large window. I stuck 3 layers together and used my usual technique of crisscrossing the whole thing and then pulling out the holes. This leaves scratches across the pane without the horizontal frame. I'll have to do this again and take more care and cut only across the frame part. I've learned of the usefulness of cheap watercolour paints from Liam's channel, so I thought I'd give them a try. It works! The paint can just be sloshed on. It doesn't stick to the acetate at all and can just be dabbed off with a bit of toilet roll. No white edges. I'm really pleased with these. What do you think?
I think the part of your build, Michael, that I'm most impressed with is in fact the office windows. The bars here are very thin and replicate the metal bars that would have been typically seen on these kind of windows. So to hear you've actually painted them with watercolours and then effectively washed it off the glazing is fantastic. I very well will be trying this technique out myself.
I was making this building at the same time as the tiny Pockets pool hall. The difference in size in my hands was pronounced and I found it very strange working with such large components. I added the roof, fettled the extension into place, wrapped it in texture, and fitted the windows. It's hard to believe that this is just a bit of cheesecake wrapping and a sticky address label, painted with children's paints from W.H. Smith's. I had fun making the recess. I added a base, and then a side with a door, and a window, and a back wall, and just clamped it all into position while the glue set. The extension then just glued onto the base. Making capping is just as fiddly in 3mm as it is in 2mm scale. I wanted to wrap this thin bit of card on 3 edges with texture. Thin card can bend, so I hold it straight between 2 rulers, and then lay the texture along it onto PVA glue. Once this is set for a minute or so, I can wrap the edges around, and then cut it into mitered strips to go along the top of the extension's roof. Liam got the capping on my building incredibly thin, thinner than I've ever done. How did you do that, Liam?
So the coping stones I added onto the top of my build are actually just a single layer of very thin card, and then wrapped in the normal way with Scale Scene's textures on the top and the bottom, and then the exposed edge just touched in with a little bit of watercolour paint.
Working in a larger scale was really good fun, Because the texture has more fidelity, you can see individual bricks. Using the scale scene's textures, I took care to align them between components so that the texture variances visually match between different parts of the building. I enjoyed being able to add more pronounced sills, and I think that the overall building looks a bit neater than the ones I manage in Engage somehow. I know that Liam likes to light the interiors of his buildings, so I left a couple of access holes in the back. We agreed not to add fine details to the buildings, we would finish them off to our own styles. That being said, I can't help thinking that the larger building looks plainer and somehow less characterful than its Engage counterparts. I enjoyed building it, but I've not been inspired to build a larger scale layout. Yet, anyway. Time to pack it up for Liam and to look forward to see what he sends me. So here we are then, Liam. I've got it in a box. It's ready to be sent. Due to the construction process, some elements of the building may be wonky. This delivery note really made me laugh. Wow, it's the same building, but smaller. This cream brick really is quite bright. He's added graffiti. He's actually copied the hoko from my retaining wall. Superb. At least Scotty and Stanley didn't get to it as well. First impressions are it's incredibly neat and square. Liam's roof is embedded into the edges of the walls, whereas I always had mine on top. That's interesting. What is this highly advanced technique to make it look like the brickwork is starting to crumble in a patch of damp? It's very Chandwell. How did you do that, Liam?
Oh, thanks for asking about the weathering, Michael. Yes, this is a very precise technique I've perfected by adding far too much PVA glue when attaching components of the building together, and then leaving the building in the jig for too long as the glue splurges out over the side. But I'm glad you like it.
He's a chimney flap. This is the exact same technique that I use. But I often find it really challenging to get the flap cut right once the chimney is in place. How do you sort that one out, Liam?
Normally I just fold everything into place and then gradually crease it and use a selection of small wooden blocks to rest upon and make the final cut in situ. It works quite well, and I've done it on a number of my buildings before.
First impressions. Next to Riding's house, it looks a bit on the large size. We designed it to be the same proportions as the building with the fire escape. The fire escape building is based on architectural drawings that I found of the real building based in Bradford. But next to the 60s building though, this industrial sized roller door looks a bit daft. You know what we forgot to do? Did neither of us ever watch Chandwell or Deansbury Town on YouTube? Michael and Liam are always talking about making cheap card mock-ups. Why didn't we listen to them? The problem with the one I made you is even more pronounced on Deansbury Town. I wonder, have we completely misscaled it? Are the buildings in Chandwell overscaled, do you think?
No, I don't think Chandwell is overscale at all, Michael. I think your inspiration has come from Bradford, and I think what we've found is the scale and the grandeur of the buildings there is at the opposite end of the scale to Stoke-on-Trent and Hanley, where I've taken my buildings from. I think the main problem is we didn't really work this out or didn't really pay enough attention to this, and perhaps we could have scaled the Deansbury building down slightly to make it fit in better.
I have absolutely loved working on a 3mm building and sharing the experience with Liam. If you enjoy what I do on Chandwell, you will certainly enjoy what Liam does on Deansbury Town. I'll let Liam have the final word. So until my next video, thank you for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Well, thanks for having me on Chandwell, Michael. It's been a real pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed the build. I'm sorry it hasn't quite worked out the way we both intended, but it should be an entertaining video all the same. For those of you who haven't, please do come and join me on Deansbury Town, where you can see the other half of this video and how it worked out on my layout. Thanks for watching, take care, bye for now.